11:30 itself. Okay. Seven. Okay. 25. Okay. 26. Okay. Yeah. No, hold on. Just right now, level 1 to 30. Okay. Then I'll ask you questions on the remaining levels. Okay. All right. So level 1 में से अच्छा 24 भी है. Okay. Yeah, that's almost everything. So let's see. Question number 7. At what angle should two forces 2f and root 2f act so that the resultant is f root 10? Okay, so at what angle should these forces act so that the resultant is f root 10? At what angle should 2f root 2f act so that the resultant is f root 10? All right, let's see that. Yeah. All right, so what are you given? Let's try to break that down. What are you given in this? You're given the magnitude of two vectors. Yeah? So you're told that the magnitude of two vectors is one vector's magnitude is 2f, another vector's magnitude is root 2f. What I'm trying to show you is how do you realize which formula is required in the question, which formula you need to use in the question. So sometimes if you are stuck and if you have no idea what to do, then rather than staring at the question, it will always be good to list down what is given and what you need to find. For instance, what is given? Magnitude of two vectors is given. A and B ka magnitude is given. For instance, 2f and root 2f is given. What else is given? Magnitude of the resultant is given. If you give the vectors names A and B, the magnitude of the resultant would look like this. Mod A bar plus B bar. That is given to you as f root 10. Pucha kya hai? What do you have to find? You need to find theta. So having written all the variables involved, we just stare at the yellow terms. A, B, A plus B ka mod and theta. And you think which formula involves these terms? Which formula involves all the terms involved in the question? It's definitely the formula for our resultant. So that's our hint. Yeah, I need to use this formula. I need to use the formula for finding the resultant of two vectors. जो last class में देखा था. अब इसमें डाल दो magnitude of a plus b is f root 10 is root a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. What is a? A is 2f. A square becomes 4f square. B is root 2f. The b square becomes 2f square. You're just substituting the values. Plus 2ab cos theta. The plus 2 into a मतलब 2f into b मतलब root 2f into cos theta. बस वो फॉर्मूला में सब कुछ सब्स्टिट्यूट किया. पहले गिवन क्या था, निकालना क्या था, वो लिखा टू अंडरस्टैंड विच फॉर्मूला इज इन्वॉल्व्ड. उसके बाद वो करने के बाद then we just substitute all the terms. अच्छा, what do I do with this equation? There's a root on both sides. It's not easy to work with. Square both sides. Get rid of that root. So when you square both sides, f root 10 becomes f square into 10. F root 10 becomes f square into 10. Right hand side, 4f square plus 2f square becomes 6f square. And then this 2 into root 2 becomes 4 root 2. And then f into cos theta becomes f square cos theta. So if you just square both sides, you will see that your equation looks like this. F square into 10 plus f square into 6 plus 4 root 2 f square cos theta. Obviously, you can cancel out f square from all terms. Okay, then you have 10 and 6 left. 10 minus 6 becomes 4. So 4 is 4 root 2 cos theta. उसमें फिर दोनों side 4 cancel कर लो. And in the end, do everything correctly, you should get cos theta as 1 by root 2. When is cos theta 1 by root 2? When theta is 45 degrees. है ना? समझ में आया? All those who ask question number 7, or if you want me to explain any line again, please ask. सीधा वो formula पे था. Whenever you see that the variables involved are the magnitudes of two vectors, the magnitude of your either resultant or difference vector, and the angle between the vectors. If these are the terms involved, that's it. You have to use this formula. Yeah? Okay. Clear? No doubts? Next one was question number. You have a few doubts in the solved examples in the module. Okay, maybe you can just wait a little bit after class. You're towards the end of class, and you can maybe ask me that. Okay? इसको copy कर लो. But for your information, this is also uploaded in the drive. So in your drive where you have the vectors lecture notes, वहीं पे doubts का भी एक फोल्डर है. वेक्टर्स जहाँ पे वेक्टर्स पार्ट 1 है, वेक्टर्स पार्ट 2 है, इसके बगल में वेक्टर्स डाउट्स भी है, right? And there you have all of these solutions as well. What did I do after squaring both sides? कुछ नहीं, स्क्वायर किया और फिर मैंने बस स्क्वायर ही किया और कुछ नहीं किया. स्क्वायर किया, ये 4f and 2f को क्लब किया, इनको मल्टीप्लाई किया, 4 रूट 2f स्क्वायर किया, हाँ, एंड फिर f स्क्वायर कैंसिल किया मैंने दोनों साइड से. Then 10 is equal to 6 plus 4 root 2 cos theta, उसको सॉल्व किया. Done. $11. All right. So find the value of C if A is equal to 0.4 I cap plus 3 J cap plus C K cap. If this vector is a unit vector, find the value of C. All right, so simple. If this vector is a unit vector, if this vector is a unit vector, so what is a vector? A vector is 0.4 I cap plus 0.3 J cap plus C K cap. This is a vector. ठीक है? If this is a unit vector, मतलब ये vector का magnitude 1 होना चाहिए. How do you find the magnitude of a vector? Remember Pythagoras theorem. So whenever a vector is given as I, J, and K, you find its magnitude by applying Pythagoras theorem on that vector. So you just have to take these terms, इनका स्क्वायर का रूट ऐसे निकालते हैं मैग्नीट्यूड. इनका स्क्वायर्स कितना है? तो 0.16, 0.09 एंड सी स्क्वायर, ये हो गया इनके स्क्वायर्स. तो इनके स्क्वायर्स का सम का रूट is the magnitude. Now in this case, because this is a unit vector, this magnitude is equal to 1. This magnitude is equal to 1. Okay. Now you can, again, you don't like working with roots, right? So just square both sides. 1 का square stays 1. यहाँ पे स्क्वायर करोगे तो ये रूट वाला टर्म हट जाएगा. क्या रह जाएगा? अच्छा, 0.16 प्लस 0.09 को 0.25 लिख सकते हैं. So I have 0.25 plus c square is equal to 1. 0.25 plus c square is equal to 1. यहाँ से c का वैल्यू आ जाएगा. c square then becomes 1 minus 0.25. So c square becomes 0.75. If c square is 0.75, c is root 0.75. Okay. So in the answer is given something else. Let me just see that once more. 0.25 सही है, सी स्क्वायर शुड बी रूट 0.75. क्या दिया है इसके आंसर में? नन ऑफ दीज. ये गलत हो गया फिर. आई होप यू लुकिंग इन द राइट प्लेस. बी दिया है. तुम किसका देख रहे थे? लेवल 2 का देख रहे हो आंसर. जिस थोड़ा ना आंसर की देखते वक्त जस्ट चेक विच लेवल द क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम. ठीक है. सो द लेवल 1 बी ही दिया है, लेवल 2 का 11 को डी दिया है. ऑलराइट, बी इज द आंसर. नो डाउट इन दिस. क्लियर? सिंपल. सो विद दिस, अब ये एग्जांपल से अब हमेशा याद करो, ऐसा निकालते हैं मैग्नीट्यूड. पाइथागोरस थ्योरम से मैग्नीट्यूड निकालते हैं. ठीक है. यूनिट वेक्टर का एक ही चीज है, उसका मैग्नीट्यूड 1 होना चाहिए. ओके. If you see me rush a little bit, I mean, if of course if you can copy, that'll be good if you can copy while I'm teaching. But if you see me quickly rush through questions, that's because we may have a lot of questions to discuss. And maybe at this stage, I'll just tell you once more, where are all these doubt wale slides uploaded? So you have the access to this folder called as Space Lecture Notes. When you open um, when you open the vectors folder, like you have been opening to study or to visit the notes that we have made in class. So we are in vectors part 2 right now, as you know. So अच्छा, by the way, again one advice, ये last modified जो है ना ऊपर, click that and always sort it by name. We sort it by name, it's going to be in alphabetical order. Otherwise it'll look messy. Always sort it by name so that it'll be in alphabetical order. It'll be in the order in which I teach in class. As for vectors doubts, all your doubts are here. Again, this is sorted by name. Fair enough. Okay, so that's 7. That's what we just did, and there's 11. Okay, वैसे ही सब कुछ uploaded है. So if you want, you can just refer to that. If you really want to write, you can copy from that. Okay. Since there may be a lot of questions to discuss, so as to not waste too much time, I may go a little fast and I may just keep moving from question to question. What I want to convey is the idea behind the question. Okay? So if you really want to copy, you can copy later as well. Where was I? I was sorry, supposed to be in yeah, fair. Level 1 18 भी कर सकते of course. 18 देख लेते हैं. See, you want to write alongside me, you can do that. Otherwise, अगर time कम पड़ गया, then please refer to the solutions on the drive. Level 1 18. Okay. A is 2 I cap plus 3 j cap. B is I cap plus j cap plus I cap plus 4 j cap plus k cap. Then the unit vector along A plus B. Simple. So what is A plus B? Okay. In fact, यहाँ पे I think symbols सही है. Unit vector along A bar plus B bar. What is this A bar plus B bar? ना, so add कर लो. A bar is 2 I cap plus 3 j cap. B bar is I cap plus 4 j cap plus k cap. Add them. You know how to add them. I said this is one of the easiest things you can do with vectors. Just club the I cap terms, club the j cap terms, and if there are k cap terms, club them as well. So 2 plus 1 makes it 3 I cap. 3 plus 4 j cap makes it 7 j cap. There's no k cap in the first term, so just in a 0 plus 1 k cap keeps it as 1 k cap. So this is A plus B. We've just added the vectors. Simple. I को club किया, j को club किया, k, the way you would do in school. 2x plus 3y, x plus 4y plus 7 plus z. How would you add them? You take x common, y common, z common. वैसे ही यहाँ पे I cap common, j cap common, k cap common लेके you club the terms. ये आने के बाद they are saying इसके along unit vector, इस vector के along unit vector चाहिए. So to get a unit vector along any vector, what is our procedure? Find the magnitude and divide by the magnitude. So what is the magnitude of this vector? So Pythagoras theorem, as we just saw, root 3 square plus 7 square plus 1 square, which gives us 9 plus 49 plus 1, root 59 आ जाता है. ठीक है, then the minute you get the magnitude, divide the vector by its magnitude to get the unit vector. Vector से magnitude हटा दो, yes, r cap is r vector by r magnitude, वैसे ही जैसे हमने किया ना, a cap is a bar by magnitude of a. That is the formula for finding a unit vector. उस वेक्टर को उसके मैग्नीट्यूड से बस डिवाइड कर लो, फाइन. सो जो आंसर, हाँ, a प्लस b का जो आंसर है, दैट बाय रूट 59 इज योर आंसर. 24, thanks for that. Next is 24. ये सब कुछ अपलोडेड है. Just keep moving on. If you want to refer to the solutions again, just, you don't need to write. Idea आ गया तो most probably you'll even be able to do it again on your own. You want to refer to the solutions, it's all there on the drive. 24. हाँ, डायरेक्शन कोसाइंस ऐसा किया हमने, है ना. डायरेक्शन कोसाइंस निकालने का दो तरीका है. अगर एंगल्स दिया है तो तुम बस कॉस ऑफ एंगल्स निकाल के रख दो, कॉस अल्फा, कॉस बीटा, कॉस गामा. बट अगर एंगल्स नहीं दिया है, then what do we do? So I said, remember, direction cosines is the coefficient of the unit vector. मतलब a बार के along जब तुम unit vector लिखने जाओगे, उस unit vector के जो x y z components होगा, those will be your direction cosines. So what we'll do, we'll first write the unit vector for question number 24. Now that's going to be very similar to what we just did, है ना. इसका यूनिट वेक्टर जैसे निकाला वैसे ही इसका भी निकाल देंगे. तो 24 में a बार इज दिस. यूनिट वेक्टर कैसे निकालते हैं? हाँ, डिवाइड द वेक्टर बाय इट्स मैग्नीट्यूड. ऑलराइट, सो डिवाइड दिस वेक्टर बाय इट्स मैग्नीट्यूड. मैग्नीट्यूड इज रूट 2 स्क्वायर प्लस 4 स्क्वायर 16 प्लस, यू कैन इग्नोर द माइनस साइन और यू कैन टेक इट एनीवे, स्क्वायर में हट जाता है. 5 का स्क्वायर इज 25. So root 4 plus 16 plus 25, that makes it root 45. Magnitude of this vector is root 45. Now divide the vector by its magnitude. So when you divide it by its magnitude, you get root 45 below each of the terms. So it becomes 2 root 45 I cap, 4 by root 45 j cap, minus 5 by root 45 k cap. अब इसमें the components you see, the coefficients of I, J, and K, the individual X, Y, Z components that you see, those are your direction cosines. Okay, so 2 by root 45, 4 by root 45, and with the sign minus 5 by root 45, those are your direction cosines. Okay, direction cosines can be positive or negative, because cos of angles from 0 to 180 can be positive if it's acute, can be negative if it's obtuse. तो माइनस साइन का इंपॉर्टेंस है, वो बताता है कि z के साथ इसका एंगल ऑब्ट्यूज है. सो आइदर वे, व्हाट आर योर डायरेक्शन कोसाइंस? सिंपल, यूनिट वेक्टर लिखो और यूनिट वेक्टर में आई जे के हटा के जो रह जाएगा वो तुम्हारे डायरेक्शन कोसाइंस है. तो 2 by root 45, 4 by root 45, minus 5 by root 45. ये जो नंबर्स हैं, as one of you saying, ये नंबर्स को रूट 45 से डिवाइड कर लो. Okay, clear? Any doubt in 24? You can see this corresponds to maybe option A. No doubt. याद रहेगा इसके आगे हमेशा. ठीक है, ऐसे निकालते हैं, ऐसे निकालना डायरेक्शन कोसाइंस. अब 25, the vector that must, अब देखो, again this is just English, try to understand what the English is saying. The vector that must be added to the vector something something and another vector something something, so that the resultant vector is a unit vector along the y-axis. First of all, what is a unit vector along the y-axis? You replace that phrase with j cap. Okay, they are saying resultant should be j cap. मतलब एक वेक्टर चाहिए जो ये दो वेक्टर के साथ ऐड करना है, ताकि तीनों को ऐड करने के बाद रिजल्टेंट इज j cap. That's very simple. imagine that, let's say that vector, yeah, simple सा addition है ना, when you have vectors in coordinate form, addition is very simple. It's just like adding scalars, वैसे ही हो गया है ना, it's very simple. So you just club I cap and add, you club J cap and add, you club K cap and add. So what is the question? Let's say this is that vector which needs to be added to this vector and this vector. I've just copied from the question. It needs to be added to those two vectors to give what? To give a unit vector along y, to give J cap. Simple. That's our question. They're asking us what is A bar? क्या इन दोनों के साथ ऐड करने में J cap देगा? बस इस इक्वेशन को सॉल्व करो. अब सॉल्व कैसे करोगे? इन दो टर्म्स को उस तरफ ले लो. ए बार चाहिए ना, तो ए बार ही एक तरफ रखो, बाकी सबको राइट हैंड साइड पे ले लो. तो व्हेन यू टेक देम टू द राइट हैंड साइड, है ना, you get a minus sign. So I have negative of I cap minus 3 J cap plus 2 K cap. I have negative of 3 I cap plus 6 J cap minus 7 K cap. Club everything, बस club the J, club the I, club the K. क्या मिलेगा? तो I देखो क्या है, इधर माइनस आई कैप है, इधर माइनस 3 आई कैप है, इधर आई कैप है ही नहीं, तो आई हैव माइनस 4 आई कैप. J का देखो क्या है, पहले तो एक तो 1J है, फिर माइनस माइनस प्लस 3 हो गया, तो 1 + 3 4, और ये माइनस 6 हो गया, तो 4 - 6 मतलब माइनस 2 J कैप हो गया. We have minus 2 J cap. Finally, for K cap, we have minus 2 and minus plus 7. So 7 - 2 5 K cap. Simple. So that's your answer. A bar ये है. ठीक, ये इसको बाकी के साथ ऐड, ये तो इस इक्वेशन का सॉल्यूशन है ना, तो you don't even need to cross check. If you add them to these, you will end up getting J. All right. Good. Any doubts? Just please show previous question. ये वाला. हाँ guys, just hold on to your doubts post 30. Once I finish everything till 30, then we'll take down from 31 to 60. तो 30 के अंदर और क्या है, 26 and 30 बाकी है. 26 simple. A hall has 26. A hall has dimensions 10 cross 12 cross 14. Fly starting at one corner ends up at a diametrically opposite corner. What is the magnitude of its displacement? Alright, so this is the scene. ये तो बस अपना Pythagoras theorem का formula मांग रहा है. Now I can understand. Okay, I can understand why you guys have a doubt in this. Actual answer उन्होंने round off किया है. That's the problem. Okay, so क्या है actually इसमें? There's a cubicle room. Fly starts from one corner and it goes to the diametrically opposite corner. Okay, goes to the diametrically opposite corner. And they're asking what is this displacement? अब fly तो कैसे भी उड़ के जाएगा, it doesn't matter because displacement only depends on the initial and the final position. You guys know that displacement is the straight line, or the magnitude of the displacement is the length of the straight line going from the start to the finish. What is the length of that body diagonal? It's going to be root 10 square plus 12 square plus 14 square, Pythagoras theorem. When you do that, 100 plus 144 plus 196 gives root 440, which is unfortunately not in the options. All right, so I mean maybe that's why you guys may have asked this कि हमने solve करके कुछ आंसर निकाला बट वो आंसर ऑप्शंस में ही नहीं है ना. तो क्या है, then in that case you are expected to, as I mean if you're confident, which you should be, this is a simple question, if you're confident you have not done anything wrong, then you will have to just pick the nearest option. Now does this come in the exams कि मतलब in which the answer has to be taken approximately? Does this come in the exams? Yes, it does. It does come sometimes, not always. इतना ये तो बहुत ही गंदा हो गया. 440 के पास at least 21 would have been accepted because 21 square is 441. 21 की जगह 20 is unfortunately our nearest option, है ना. 17, 26, 36, 20. So 20 is our nearest option, so we are going with 20. एग्जाम में एटलीस्ट 21 होता था, but still if that's not the case, if it's still a little far away, but you can see acha that they have somewhat approximated it. You're confident you've done everything right, then go for the nearest answer. Okay. Cool. I guess that was your only doubt. I'm sure everyone knew what had to be done, but I think your doubt was why isn't root 440 or why isn't 21 in the options? Okay. 30. 30 is actually very similar to, in fact, is it the same question? No, but 30 is very similar to 18, was it? है ना, तो कर लोगे 30 जिसने भी पूछा है. यूनिट वेक्टर पैरेलल टू द रिजल्टेंट ऑफ ए एंड बी, मतलब वही फंडा है 18 में जो किया, तुम्हें ए एंड बी ऐड करना है, ठीक है. सोल्यूशन भी नहीं है बिकॉज 30 इज वेरी सिमिलर. हो जाएगा कि जिसने भी 30 पूछा, ए एंड बी बस ऐड करना है, उसको ऐड करने के बाद मैग्नीट्यूड निकालना है, ठीक है. और मैग्नीट्यूड निकालने के बाद अब ऐड करने में ऑप्शंस मुझे दिख रहा है, सब में वो एडिशन सेम है, 3i प्लस 6j माइनस 2k. सो लेट्स से ऐड करने में वो आ गया 3i प्लस 6j माइनस 2k. माइनस प्लस में थोड़ा अंतर है, माइनस सीम्स टू बी करेक्ट. तो 3i प्लस 6j माइनस 2k वो आ गया, एंड जस्ट डिवाइडेड बाय इट्स मैग्नीट्यूड. तो 362 व्हेन यू डू दैट, नो यू विल फाइंड कि वो परफेक्टली 7 का स्क्वायर आता है. 3, 6 एंड 2 पे पाइथागोरस लगाओ. Okay, you'll find this quite common. 9 plus 36 plus 4, that's 49. Okay, so root 49 लेना था, तो 7, therefore option A is your answer. हो जाएगा ना जिसने भी 30 पूछा, because it's quite similar to 18. Okay, let me know if you are still clueless, but आ गया तो we can move on. So now 31 to whatever is, कहाँ तक है यार अपना, till the end, 31 to 60. Level 1, still in level 1, ठीक है. Okay, so I see 44. Okay, you're getting -2 as the answer. देखते हैं, क्रॉस चेक करेंगे. 35, 40. (42) एक मिनट. देखो 30 ना, जस्ट मेक अ नोट कि जो हमने 18 में किया वो ही तुम्हें 30 में करना है. इफ यू लुक एट द क्वेश्चन नंबर 18 एंड क्वेश्चन नंबर 30, दे आर I mean exactly the same. क्या है? The unit vector parallel to the resultant of A and B. 18 में क्या है? Unit vector along A plus B. तो वही फंडा है. You just have to add the two vectors. Like in 18, we added the two vectors. This is the English of the question. Is just the framing of the sentence is a little different, but just same approach. Just add the two vectors. If you have understood 18, then I would say just try 30 at home. If you didn't get it, but now you have understood 18, refer to that and try 30 once by yourself at home. You should be able to solve it. You have to add them. We know there's no challenge in adding vectors. Yeah, right? Just club I, J, K and add them. Add करके 3i plus 6j minus 2k आएगा. Orally दिख रहा है 3i plus 6j minus 2k आएगा. वो एक बार आ गया, उसका मैग्नीट्यूड निकाल दो पाइथागोरस थ्योरम से. √3 स्क्वायर प्लस 6 स्क्वायर प्लस 4 स्क्वायर, वो √49 होके 7 आ जाएगा. So divide the resultant by its magnitude to get the unit vector along the resultant. वेक्टर को मैग्नीट्यूड से डिवाइड कर लो, ए आ जाएगा उसका आंसर. समझ में आ गया? You want to ask me to repeat? You got the idea? You'll be able to do it. I'll just do a quick check to see if all these questions were indeed in the homework. 35, 40, 44, 42, yes, 56 and 59 मुझे दिख नहीं रहा. 59 किसने पूछा? 59, was that in the homework? नहीं ना? So whoever typed 59, just let me know if you were intending to type something else. 59 तो of course अब तक वो अभी नहीं है, वो बाद में आएगा. Alright, so let's start with 35. If A minus B is equal to A is equal to B, the angle between A and B is, alright? You were saying 39, okay. 39 था क्या homework में? 39 भी नहीं है. वापस typo हुआ है क्या? 39 also was not given. 39, let me see what it is. But okay, I mean, I think we can, maybe I might have given before this. ठीक है, कर सकते, देख सकते 39, बता देता हूँ. दिया था homework 39, कभी ना कभी. Does it look like you have attempted this? Okay, it was done. All right, we'll see. 35. A minus B is equal to B. So यहाँ पे देखो क्या है, you're told कि first and foremost, हाँ actually इसको तो काफी easily कर सकते हैं. You know कि A minus B, yes, एक तो तुम बैठ के वो कौन सा एक डिफरेंस का फॉर्मूला है वो बैठ के वो फॉर्मूला वगैरह लगा सकते हो. A minus B is root A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. वो बैठ के maths वगैरह लगा के तुम you can figure out the answer. But the best way to do this is one of your standard triangles. ठीक है? Yes, this is one of your standard triangles. Why is this a standard triangle? You know that A minus B is the addition of A and minus B. You know that therefore, if you consider a triangle made up of these three vectors, that triangle is bound to be an equilateral triangle. Right? When you add A and you add minus B and you get A minus B, that triangle that you get from triangle law, that is going to be an equilateral triangle. Why? Because we know that all these vectors have the same sides, have the same length. Q, A minus B ka magnitude is equal to A ka magnitude is equal to B ka magnitude. But bear in mind, B and minus B have the same magnitude. All right, so if their magnitude is equal to B's magnitude, their magnitude is also equal to minus B's magnitude. Therefore, all three of these sides in the triangle law that you're going to apply, all three of those sides will have the same length. So you will have an equilateral triangle. So just draw an equilateral triangle. Label one of the vectors as minus B. Remember, you're adding minus B and A. So minus B and A are joined in a head to tail fashion. Minus B ka head is on A ka tail. So minus B and A are joined like this. The resultant in the opposite sense is unka addition. So resultant is A plus minus B या A minus B. तो ये हो गया अपना triangle. अब ये triangle सब बनाने के बाद we know all angles over here are 60. Fair enough. ये सब बनाने के बाद पूछा क्या है? Looks like they've asked this. A और B के बीच में angle. अब अगर minus B ऐसा है, उसी डायग्राम में B बना लो, तो B minus B का उल्टा होगा. So if minus B's head is joined to A, B's tail will be joined to A. The minute you draw that, you can nicely directly see that this angle over here, 60 degrees, is the angle between A and B when they are already joined tail to tail. Matlab, I don't need to change anything further. This is actually the angle between A and B. So 60 degrees is our answer. In fact, it's also quite likely that when I taught you vector subtraction, I must have given you this exact same question in the other way. I would have said two vectors of equal magnitude, उनके बीच में 60 degrees angle है, subtract कर लो, यही आंसर आया होगा. तब हम यहाँ से यहाँ गए थे, इस बार हम उल्टा जा रहे हैं. But समझ रहे हैं, you can actually create the triangle and see. If not, you can always apply root a square plus, you can take a minus b as x, and you can apply the formula a minus b is root a square. अब a भी x हो गया, b square वो भी x हो गया, माइनस है ना, डिफरेंस के फॉर्मूला में एक माइनस साइन है, माइनस टू ए बी, a is x, b is x, तो वो x स्क्वायर हो जाएगा इंटू कॉस थीटा। या से भी तुम सॉल्व कर सकते हो, इससे भी आंसर आएगा। I think both would be equally long or equally short. इससे भी आंसर आएगा, इससे आएगा cos theta सा। So you can solve by either method. Let me know if you have any doubt. Let me know if you didn't understand what the second method is. You take it to be equal to x. You can just apply. Yeah, explain what once again, the entire thing or just the second method? Second method. तो इसको हर टर्म को x के बराबर ले लो, and now what you can do is you can apply, ये actually apply क्या किया मैंने यहाँ पे, so I've applied magnitude of a minus b, magnitude of difference is root a square, sorry, plus b square, this is a formula, right, minus difference के लिए minus sign आता है, that's the only difference, minus 2ab mon यार, अरे minus 2ab cos theta. Okay, so this is a formula, and you can see कि if I've taken a minus b का magnitude as x, a का magnitude as x, b का magnitude as x, how all these terms become x square minus 2x into x cos theta, the minus 2x square. Okay? So that's what I've basically done. Now when you open that up, you get x is equal to, we are considering all these magnitude, यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, a minus b का magnitude, a का magnitude, b का, सबका magnitude को मैंने x बोल दिया, वो सवाल में दिया था कि their magnitudes are the same, so I'm calling all of their magnitudes as x. Okay, and then I'm substituting it in the difference formula. So what do I get? Square both sides, x square is 2x square minus 2x square cos theta. Okay, you can even cancel out x square from both sides. यहाँ से cancel कर लो, यहाँ पे 1 रहेगा, कुछ लोग ये cancel करके 0 लिखते हैं, वैसे मत करो. By cancelling, what are we doing? We're actually dividing by x square. So when I divide the left hand side by x square, that becomes 1. When I divide the right hand side by x square, I get 2 minus 2 cos theta. Divide करके 0 मत लिखो. A lot of people write 0. They're not even able to trace फिर उसके बाद गलती कहाँ पे हुआ. So I've just cancelled out x square, left hand side पे 1 है. So take 1 to this side. So it becomes, if I take 1 to the right hand side, it becomes 2 minus 1. If I bring 2 cos theta to the left hand side, it becomes positive 2 cos theta. So positive 2 cos theta is 2 minus 1, which means cos theta is half. If cos theta is half, that just means theta is 60 degrees. Cool? समझ में आ गया? Whichever method, I think. What do we prefer? think the second one is just a direct formula and you don't need to really imagine much. It's of course good to be able to use both. Maybe upload this. एक मिनट ना. All right, 39. I don't know if I discussed last time. 39. जल्दी से देख लो. तो P plus Q, I don't think I discussed this last time. तो इसमें क्या है? P plus Q is equal to R. So the minute you read that statement, you should realize कि अरे this is triangle law. P, Q and R. If I apply triangle law, I know they form a triangle. और क्या दिया है? बोला है कि इनका magnitudes का ratio 5:12:13. Okay? I've not given this at all. You guys are confusing me. 39. I know I didn't give it this time. Did I give it the last time? एक मिनट. I'll just figure out. I think I did give this. एकदम काफी पहले दिया था. I did give you this. Anyways, ये मतलब ऐसे questions हमने किया है. जल्दी से एक बार discuss कर लेता हूँ. ठीक है? If you have not attempted, you can just close your eyes. You can attempt it on your own. You'll be able to solve it. It's not a big deal. ट्राइंगल लॉ है. ट्राइंगल लॉ है. यहाँ पे साइड्स का रेशियो यानी कि मैग्नीट्यूड्स का रेशियो 5:12:13 दिया है. So the minute you see a triangle with those sides, you should remember this. This is a very standard Pythagorean triplet. You'll see this so many times. 12 square plus 5 square is 13 square. Check that. 144 plus 25 is 169. मतलब ये इन पे Pythagoras theorem लग रहा है. This is actually a right angle triangle. It's a standard. It's a very common Pythagorean triplet. So that's definitely a right angle triangle. Up, the minute you realize it's a right angle triangle, you draw the triangle. You draw the triangle. So I am going to draw a right angle triangle like this. Just focus on the blue part. I've drawn a right angle triangle first. Then I know ki Q and, sorry, which are the smaller sides? 5 and 12. P and Q are the smaller sides. So this one is P. उसको मैंने 5 label किया. This one is Q. उसको मैंने 12 label किया. And this one is R. So 13 label किया. Okay. P plus Q vectorially is equal to R. Draw the arrows then. So P and Q are being added. So they should be joined head to tail. Whereas R should be in the opposite sense. Okay. So R is the resultant. It should be from the available tail to the available head. तो ऐसा arrows भी draw कर लिया. अंत में क्या पूछा है? अंत में पूछा है, I think the question is asking the angle between Q and R. So you can see the angle of this triangle. Let's say the angle in this triangle is alpha. Do we know how to figure out alpha? Yes. Because if you look at this triangle, cos alpha is 12 adjacent by hypotenuse, 12 by 13. So alpha is either cos inverse 12 by 13, or if you're writing in terms of tan, you can write it as tan inverse opposite by adjacent 5 by 12. Or if you're writing in terms of sine, you can write it as sine inverse opposite by hypotenuse. So sine inverse 5 by 13. कुछ भी चलेगा. That is the value of alpha. Question is alpha what is asked? Is alpha the angle between R and Q? So they are joined head to head. Head to head भी जब joint होता है तभी भी जो angle दिखता है, that is the correct angle. If you don't believe that, drag this forward. तो Q को आगे drag किया, R को आगे drag किया. Ab they are joined tail to tail, and you can see this is now again the same angle between them. All right, so the angle you see when they are joined head to head is the angle you see when they're joined tail to tail. Okay, so and that angle is alpha, and therefore this is the answer to a question. This is the angle between Q and R. Whatever alpha is the angle between Q and R. You can check the option C in which form that is written. All are in terms of cost, so you need not waste your time with the rest. The answer is cos lower square by 30. Clear hai? $40, 42, 44. Let's move on quickly. 40. Two forces, F1, F2, are acting on a body. One force is double that of the other force, and the resultant is equal to the greater force. Then the angle between the two forces is, analyze the question, see what variables are there. Two forces, फिर one force is double that, मतलब magnitudes के बीच में कुछ रिश्ता दिया है, एक दूसरे का double है. Okay, resultant is equal to the greater, resultant का magnitude भी बता दिया है ना, and then angle है, तो definitely this involves the resultant formula. Yes, look at the terms involved, you'll realize that this is the resultant formula. Okay, because you have everyone's magnitudes के बीच में some relation, and then they're asking you theta. Now this is the information in the question. They are saying there are two forces, one force का magnitude is double the other force का magnitude and is equal to resultant का magnitude is equal to resultant का magnitude. So that is the information. We know that this is gonna, given we need to find theta, the terms involving all of them, the equation involving all of them is this equation. इसी से अपना आंसर आएगा. तो इस इक्वेशन में सब्स्टिट्यूट करते जाओ. So first and foremost, f1 plus f2 रिजल्टेंट का मैग्नीट्यूड इज 2f2, वो डाल दिया. सबको f2 के टर्म्स में लिख रहा हूँ, एक चीज के टर्म्स में लिखो तो वो कट जाएगा बाद में, है ना. फिर f1 को 2f2 लिख लिया तो f1 स्क्वायर इज 4f2 स्क्वायर, f2 स्क्वायर इज f2 स्क्वायर. 2f1 f2 cos थीटा को लिखेंगे 2 f1 is 2f2 into f2 into cos theta. So I've just substituted f1 and the resultant का value in terms of f2. We know they are equal to 2f2. उतना ही substitute किया. Again root हटा दो square करके. So the left hand side becomes 4f2 square. This is again, the rest I've just copied as it is. I have maybe multiplied this. 2 into 2 is 4, f2 into f2 is f2. So 4f2 square cos theta kiya. And that's it. So that's what we get when we square both sides. फिर उसके बाद, as you can clearly see, I've cancelled out f2, f2 square, f2 square, f2 square. Remember ऐसा cancel करना मतलब हम कर क्या रहे हैं, हम divide कर रहे हैं दोनों एक side को f2 square से. We're dividing both sides by f2 square. It does not mean this term is going to become 0. I don't know why students make that mistake. f2 square से divide करोगे तो क्या रह जाएगा, 4 4 1 and 4 cos theta रह जाएगा. Okay, वो करने के बाद जब 4 4 रह गया तो पूरा 4 4 को subtract कर सकते हो. You can cancel that out. 4 minus 4 0 हो जाएगा. So you are actually, you can simplify this equation. You'll see that there are now only zeros and there is a 1 over here and there's a 4 cos theta over there. 0 is equal to 1 plus 4 cos theta. 1 को दूसरे side भेज दो, it becomes minus 1. So minus 1 is 4 cos theta. You can check yourself, just expand, cancel terms. You know enough maths to do that. Cos theta is minus 1 by 4. And if cos theta is minus 1 by 4, that's not a familiar angle. So we'll report our answer as cos inverse minus 1 by 4. Okay? Got that? Whoever asked. Option C. Head out to पूछो. 42. Okay, 42. The vectors 5 I cap plus a j cap. यार ये तो बहुत easy है. I doubt I have made a solution for this. बहुत easy है. 5 I cap, 2 j cap. You can do them orally. Let's do that orally. 5 I cap, 8 j cap, 2 I cap, 7 j cap. इनको बस ऐड कर लो, साफ साफ दिख रहा है 5 + 2 is 7, आई कैप हो जाएगा 7 आई कैप, 8 + 7 is 15, और उसका मैग्नीट्यूड पूछा है तो 7 आई कैप + 15 जे कैप का मैग्नीट्यूड 7 स्क्वायर + 15 स्क्वायर का मैग्नीट्यूड देखो कितना आता है 225 + 49 274 आ जाएगा उसका रूट. It's very simple. 42. Just add them and apply Pythagoras theorem to get the magnitude. Okay. I hope whoever asked that understood what I was saying. I hope you are confident you can do it. If not, let me know. 44. ये थोड़ा interesting है 44. This is, I mean, something I'm not yet spoon fed you and given the result yet. That most probably is going to happen as we look at the next portion of a theory, where I'll spoon feed and give you the results. Still, you know enough to in a way do 44. And think about it. I'm telling you that these vectors are parallel to each other. Very nice. For them to be parallel. अब इसमें actually थोड़ा एक technicality का बात है. If you remember, we say that vectors are कैसे बताऊं? Where do I start? Okay, I'll start like this. These are the two vectors given to me. Okay? This is vector A bar. Yes, Pranav, but that's a very तू जो बोल रहा है वो आगे की बात है, but फिर भी that's not the way you look for parallel vectors. ठीक है, when you learn whatever you have just mentioned, you'll see कि that's a long, very long method. This is going to be a lot simpler. देखो parallel का actually फंडा क्या है? For vectors to be parallel, if I say two vectors are parallel, they should be in the same direction. Okay. Now, for now, this question is a little incorrect because the vectors are not technically parallel, because if you remember, I have mentioned that same direction means parallel, opposite direction means anti-parallel. You remember that? Same direction means parallel, opposite direction means anti-parallel. यहाँ पे I'll show you कि the question did not mean vectors parallel होने चाहिए. Rather, what they meant was the lines along which the vectors lie. Those lines are parallel. That's what they meant. The lines along which the vectors lie, those lines are parallel. Okay, that's what they meant. Now, if the lines have to be parallel, that means the vectors can either point in the same direction or they can point in the opposite direction. Okay, but now just think, what are vectors which point in the same direction or the opposite direction? How do I get those vectors? Don't I get those vectors by multiplying this vector with a scalar? And wouldn't I get a vector parallel to A bar by just, let's say, multiplying it with a number 3, for instance? 3A bar is going to be a vector parallel to A bar, exact same direction. And similarly, won't I get a vector in the opposite direction by multiplying it with a negative number? You know, so I get parallel vectors by multiplying it with some positive number. I get anti-parallel vectors by multiplying that vector with some negative number. Parallel के लिए positive से multiply करते हैं, anti-parallel के लिए negative से multiply करते हैं. Either way, in both scenarios, the lines are parallel. In both scenarios, the vectors are along the same line. The lines are parallel. They're not along different lines. They're along parallel lines. They're along the same line. You can even say that they're along the same line. Okay. So that said, in this scenario, if I have to say that B and A are along the same line, or B and A are parallel vectors, then basically vector B, like the example I just gave, I'm sorry, vector B must be some number into A bar. Do you agree? For the lines to be parallel, vector B must be some number into A bar. That number can be positive or negative for the lines to be parallel. For the vectors to be collinear. Collinear क्यों बोल रहा हूँ? Collinear मतलब same line. अब vector के case में, if they are along parallel lines, we know we are allowed to shift a vector. तो इसी vector को shift करके इधर डाल सकते हैं, and they become collinear as well. Now the collinear vectors या vectors along the same line almost एक ही बात हो गया, ठीक है? And on a very technical sense, we'll call them anti-parallel if they are in opposite directions, and we'll say they are parallel if they are in the same direction. Okay, now that said, how do I start to realize whether vector B is some number into A bar? You start looking at the coefficients. Simple सी बात है. यहाँ पे A bar में I cap के जगह 2 है, B bar में I cap के जगह -4 है. What is the ratio? The ratio seems to be -2. मतलब I am getting B bar by multiplying A bar with -2. Now, if I actually multiply B bar, if I actually multiply A bar with -2, what is going to happen? Imagine, if I actually multiply this vector with -2, every term, the I, J, K term, all will get multiplied with -2. Okay, all will get multiplied with -2, and then you get vector B. Okay, so if even one of the terms in vector B does not have a ratio of -2 with A, that means vector B is not really parallel to A. Because if B is really -2 into A, every coefficient of B should be -2 times the corresponding coefficient of A. मतलब I cap coefficient should be -2 times A का I cap coefficient, वो साफ साफ दिख रहा है. B का J cap coefficient should be -2 times A का J cap coefficient, वो भी साफ साफ दिख रहा है ना? And therefore B का K cap coefficient, अब K cap coefficient क्या है? हाँ, yes, B का K cap coefficient क्या है फिलहाल? माइनस लैम्डा है ना? माइनस लैम्डा should be -2 times -1. Agreed? Only then B is going to be parallel to A. Every quotient of B should be -2 times the corresponding quotient of A. Then there is really a ratio between, then B is really -2 times A. If B is really -2 times A, every term in A gets multiplied with -2, you get the corresponding terms in B. तो अब इसके हिसाब से देखो क्या आ रहा है अपना इक्वेशन. आई एम गेटिंग की -1 into -2, I've written it -1 into -2. Ignore the green lines over here. Is equal to minus lambda. According to my question, ये आ रहा है मुझे. -1 into -2 is minus lambda. And when you cancel out the minus sign, एक जगह से है ना, दोनों साइड से एक एक माइनस साइन काट दो, you get lambda as -2. Does that make sense? क्यों? है ना? इसको अगर मैं -2 से मल्टीप्लाई करूंगा तो I should actually get 2k cap. I should get positive 2k cap. बुक ने उधर लिखा क्या था? माइनस लैम्डा लिखा था. तो माइनस लैम्डा इज +2. So minus lambda is +2, lambda is -2. So -2 should be our answer. This is where I think they messed up. I don't think that's in the options. है ना? So that's wrong on their part. ये गलत है, ठीक है? B44 question गलत है. The correct answer is not in the options. Okay, so या तो यहाँ पे जब है ना, जहाँ पे उन्होंने लिखा है माइनस लैम्डा के कैप, या तो वहां पे प्लस लैम्डा के कैप होना चाहिए था, या बी का आंसर -2 होना चाहिए था. They made a mistake. The question is wrong in that sense, but just maybe note down somewhere ki, and that was the mistake. It's a good question. There's a lot to learn from the question. So just maybe rectify, maybe put a plus sign over lambda. Okay, just note ki for the correct answer in that question, instead of it being minus lambda k cap, it should be plus lambda k cap. Then you get the answer that you have. या one of them should be, या तो माइनस ए बार के माइनस के कैप की जगह प्लस के कैप होना चाहिए, बी बार के माइनस लैम्डा के कैप की जगह प्लस लैम्डा के कैप. But either way, I hope you understood that lambda is -2. If anyone didn't understand, let me see. Can we say that if they are parallel, their direction cosines are the same? Yes, you can say. See, I'll explain again. Okay, I'll explain again. In fact, let me see if I can maybe sidestep and let me just check if I have a slide on this. I'll explain slide 30 from the notes since we are on this point. I'll just explain slide 30. So slide 30 में क्या है? What I'm saying is if A bar if A bar and B bar are parallel, if A bar and B bar are parallel, then it's going to look like this. Okay, then B bar is some positive constant into A bar. And if A bar and B bar are anti-parallel, as I mentioned, then B bar is some negative constant into A bar. Right? Because we know that when I multiply a vector with some positive constant, I get a vector in the same direction. If I multiply a vector with a negative constant, I get a vector in the opposite direction. Okay. That said, if I give you some examples, okay, I'll show you that slide again. If I give you some examples, if this is vector A bar, this is vector B bar, notice that B is perfectly 3 into A. How do I know that? Each term of B is 3 times the corresponding term in A. Each coefficient of B is 3 times the corresponding coefficient in A. So B is perfectly 3 times A bar. And because B is perfectly 3 times A bar, B is actually parallel to vector A bar. B is parallel to vector A bar. Okay, let's stick with the technical terms. Your book has that question we just discussed. They made a slight mistake. They should have said the lines are parallel. Okay, so but we'll excuse them for that. They had to mention lines. They didn't mention lines. For us, parallel technically means vector exact same direction में तब parallel है. उल्टा direction को हम anti parallel बोलते हैं. So B bar is clearly 3 times A bar. Okay. What about C bar? So how do you check what is the relation between C and A? Look at the first one. The first pair seems to maintain a ratio of -2. Check if that is maintained throughout. यहाँ पे भी 2 into -2 is -4. यहाँ पे भी 1 into -2 is -2. So again, C bar का each term bears a ratio of -2 with A bar ka each term. Therefore, C bar is perfectly -2 times A bar. You can actually write C bar, you can take -2 common and you will have I plus 2J plus K. Matlab you'll have A. So you can actually write C bar as -2 A bar. And therefore, in this sense, we'll say C bar is actually anti-parallel to A bar. So B bar is parallel to A bar, C bar is anti-parallel to A bar. What about D bar? Let's see. So when you look at D bar, look at the first term. So first term bears a ratio of 3. The second term bears a ratio of 3. It's going good so far. The third term does not bear a ratio of 3. The third term bears a ratio of 2. So D bar cannot be written as 3A bar. When you take 3 common from D bar, you'll have 1 plus 2 plus 2 by 3. You'll not have this. You cannot write D bar as 3A bar. Got it? So because all of the sides do not maintain the same ratio 3, D bar is not 3 times A bar. In fact, it's no number into A bar. And because there's no specific number into A bar, it's neither parallel nor anti-parallel. Did you understand this example? Did everyone understand this example? Okay, so with that said, अब बस ये क्वेश्चन क्या कर रहा है, ये जो अपना जो क्वेश्चन है उसमें भी थोड़ा इंग्लिश का गड़बड़ हुआ है. When I say कि the vectors lines are parallel, कभी कभी है ना, they say parallel but they don't strictly mean same direction. Sometimes they if they should be more careful, but if they're not careful, they actually imply lines are parallel. So what does vector ke lines being parallel mean? The lines being parallel is another term for collinear vectors. Collinear vectors means along the same line. As I just showed in the while solving that question, vector parallel lines के along lie करता है या same line के along lie करता है, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, because I can easily shift the vectors and put them on the same line if they are along parallel lines. So parallel lines, same line, एक ही बात है vectors के लिए, we can shift them parallelly. So collinear vectors are vectors जहाँ पे lines are parallel. Collinear vectors के actually दो case है. These two vectors pointing in opposite directions are also collinear. Vectors pointing in the same direction are also collinear. मतलब collinear vectors के दो types होते हैं, parallel and anti-parallel. Collinear vectors is two types, parallel and anti-parallel. So the condition for vectors to be collinear is if A and B are collinear, if their lines are parallel, then B is any constant into A. It can be positive for it to be perfectly in the same direction. It can even be negative for it to be perfectly in the opposite direction. Okay, so collinear ka itna condition hai ki B should be any constant into A. In that question, they said what is the value of lambda so that the vectors are parallel. So one little mess up that they did was they shouldn't have used the word parallel, because we can clearly see that there can be no positive ratio between them. So the vectors are definitely not strictly parallel, but then we understand that he does not mean parallel, any possibility of them being parallel. He probably means the lines are parallel. He probably means collinear vectors. Got it? And if he means collinear vectors, then the basic funda is B should be some number into A. And if B is some number into A, all terms of B should bear the same ratio with the corresponding terms in A. तो सब में -2 का रेशियो होना चाहिए. वहां से हमें आ गया कि if minus lambda is -2 times -1, lambda has to be -2. Minus कर दो, lambda has to be -2, which is not in the options. Therefore, the question is completely wrong. Question में या तो यहाँ पे प्लस होना चाहिए था या b के वहाँ lambda के सामने प्लस होना चाहिए. So just rectify that, but learn from the question. Though it's wrong, it's a thing. Learning perspective से ये सही है. अच्छा क्वेश्चन. क्लियर हो गया सब डाउट? Yeah, just let me know when you're done. लेवल 2 भी करना है. लेवल 2 से कितने क्वेश्चंस थे? Seven odd questions. Okay. Let's move on. Just again, this is uploaded. You want to copy, please just refer to the vectors, doubts, and copy. The 3 pages I showed you, 30, 30.1, 31, that maybe in the next class, that's I think right after I finish that kinematics wala part. So I'll go over those pages. Maybe I need not teach them again, but I'll just show you those pages so that you can copy in the right place at the right time. So we'll do that in the next class. But I've finished the explaining part of those pages. I'll give you time to copy that in the next class. 50, let's move on. 56, jaldi se, and then we'll look at level 2. 56 में क्या हो रहा है? Force vector is very simple. Force applied on a mass is represented as F is equal to something, and it accelerates with 1 meter per second square acceleration. What will be the mass of the body? So simple सी बात है. Force, what is the relation between force and mass and acceleration? You know, F is ma. That's the idea. F is equal to m into a. Now, of course you learn this in Newton's second law of motion as well. F is ma. Information given to us is F is this vector. Now acceleration is also actually a vector. You know that acceleration is a vector. But I have not been told acceleration, I've been told the magnitude of acceleration. The magnitude of acceleration is 1 meter per second square. Okay. Now, F is ma. How does that equation actually look? You learn in Newton's second law. N2L matlab Newton's second law. But that equation is actually like this. If you're wondering, no, how it relates between vectors and scalars. Mass is a scalar, but यहाँ पे this vector is this scalar into this vector. Remember, scalar into a vector is still a vector. So F bar is m a bar. अब उसमें क्या कर लो, उसमें और लाइफ आसान कर लो. एक्चुअली दोनों तरफ मैग्नीट्यूड निकाल दो. तो फोर्स का मैग्नीट्यूड, what you've learned in school, फोर्स का मैग्नीट्यूड is mass into acceleration का मैग्नीट्यूड. फोर्स का मैग्नीट्यूड है कितना? What is this at the end of the day? What is that magnitude of the force? So root 6 square plus 8 square plus 10 square is actually root 200. Our force का magnitude is root 200. Root 200 is our force. Acceleration is 1. What is our mass? Root 200 is 10 root 2. So 10 root 2 is mass into 1. So mass has to be 10 root 2. Force is 10 root 2. Acceleration is 1. Mass has to be 10 root 2. Simple. F equal to m से आ गया. मैंने थोड़ा extra information दिया. We can actually figure out कि इसका magnitude is 10 root 2 and simply F equal to ma लगा लो. F is 10 root 2, A is 1, so M has to be 10 root 2. Clear? एक मिनट. One of you said you found the direction cosines in vector A. हाँ, so यहाँ पे actually तुम क्या कर रहे हो? हाँ, direction cosines of vector A. The problem is you have not done anything wrong. The problem is the question is slightly wrong. तुमने direction cosines of A को direction of cosines of B से जो equate करने की कोशिश किया, you're actually assuming that the vectors are really parallel. That is where they themselves are messed up. They are not really parallel. They should have said the lines are parallel. And if they would have said the lines are parallel, you would try to look for two things. You would either try to find if the vectors are parallel or if the vectors are anti-parallel. Well, what direction cosines of these two vectors in question 44, either the direction cosines are the same or the direction cosines are negative of each other. वो same का solution हो ही नहीं सकता है because one is positive, one is negative. So actually they are negative of each other. These vectors are actually anti-parallel. And that is again just to clarify your doubt. Direction cosines थोड़ा लंबा हो जाएगा. Don't do it that way. And do it the way I just showed. Just check if the ratios are consistent. 2n minus 4, 3n minus 6, minus 1 and minus lambda. वो ratio same रखो. ठीक है? Level 2, 1, 13 क्या क्या है? 13 नहीं दिया है मैंने. हाँ वो गलत ही था ना, इसलिए वो पैरेलल था ही नहीं. That was the problem. Okay, 1, 3, 12, 2 नहीं दिया था, I think. 2 का 3, okay, हाँ sorry. 1, 3, 12, 17 भी दिख गया. यार सब कुछ पूछ रहे हैं. नहीं, अच्छा एटलीस्ट किसी ने 15 नहीं पूछा. Cool. I'm spared one question. Okay. 1, 3, 12, 17, 19, 21. नहीं 15 पूछा है किसी ने. पूरा होमवर्क जल्दी देख लेते. चलो लेवल 2 क्वेश्चन नंबर 1. The resultant of the three vectors OA, OB, OC are as shown. Let's go this quickly. I have noted down everything. सब कुछ है अभी. We basically asked everything from level 2. तो level 2 question 1 बना लेते हैं. The batch as a whole has asked everything. कोई बात नहीं, देखते हैं. Just cross check if your method is the same, even the ones you got right. See if there are more efficient methods than the one you may have used. Resultant of three vectors OA, OB and OC are as shown. तो यार ये इसको करने के बहुत तरीके हैं. Just stick to one maybe. इसमें actually you can see either you can take components and add them, all right, or you can maybe just use parallelogram law. So in fact, for instance, if you use parallelogram law, you know कि OA plus OB vector is going to be this. By parallelogram law, है ना? OA and OB already seem to be joined tail to tail. तो OA plus OB को add करोगे तो parallelogram law से ये and ये perfect 45 degrees perfect एक square बन रहा है OA OB के साथ. दोनों का रेडियस R है तो सिमेट्री से तुम्हें साफ साफ दिखेगा कि OA plus OB तो C के along ही होगा, है ना? Because this is a square, this is going to actually be this is going to be symmetrical. So this angle is going to be 45 degrees, and 45 degrees is also the angle that C makes with these two vectors. So therefore OA plus OB is along C. Can we find its magnitude? There's no problem. The magnitude is definitely R, and R का Pythagoras से R root 2. R root 2 is the magnitude of OA plus OB. And since, yes, now since OA, OB are parallel, since OA plus OB is parallel to OC, you just will add up the magnitudes. And the vectors are already parallel, so there's no fancy addition that you need to do. This is already R root 2 at an angle of whatever 45 degrees with the vertical, and that is already R at an angle of 45 degrees with the vertical, yeah, horizontal. So just add them up, just add up the magnitudes. They are along the same direction. When they're along the same direction, you can just add them up and you'll get R root 2 plus R. That's your answer. समझ में आ गया? It's simple. You could also resolve OC into components. I cap, J cap components में भी resolve कर सकते थे. Ultimately, magnitude यही आता था. R root 2 plus R would be the final magnitude. Yeah. Option C. कोई डाउट है? क्लियर हो गया? जिसने भी पूछा है तो जल्दी पूछ लो. नहीं है. 3, question number 3. If delta A be the increment in the magnitude of a vector A, then which of the following statements is true? This is a slightly tricky question, but let's see. If delta A be the increment in the magnitude of a vector A, which of the following is true? Okay, so I've just drawn a triangle. Okay, in this triangle, if you can see carefully, I have drawn how vector A looks initially. So I stands for initial. This is how vector A looks initially. This is how vector A looks finally. Okay, all right. And then delta A bar. So delta is always final minus initial. We saw this with velocity as well. Delta velocity is final velocity minus initial velocity. Delta A bar, your change in A, is A final minus A initial. What is that in this diagram? So, right, these are two vectors, A final, A initial, already joined tail to tail. So when my vectors are joined tail to tail by parallelogram law, this diagonal becomes the subtraction vector. More importantly, if I want A final minus A initial, then I'll need to put the head on A final and the tail on A initial. So that's how delta A bar looks. Okay, this vector over here is delta A bar. And one of you saying, can this be called as displacement? Yes, if these are position vectors, this could be called as displacement. Right now, I didn't say A is a position vector. I just said A is some random vector. So this represents change in A. Okay, अभी ये है मेरा delta A bar. सवाल ने कुछ और एक और टर्म मेंशन किया है. They're asking about delta A. Delta A मतलब change in A. Remember, there's no bar over here. मतलब this means change in magnitude of the vector. मतलब it means A final vector का magnitude minus A initial vector का magnitude. So this is only change in the magnitude. Okay, this is only the change in the magnitude of A final and A initial. Now, we know that this vector सही लिखा है ना? Yes. So if you remember, we have said कि any vector that you get, है ना, सम हो या डिफरेंस हो, उनका मिनिमम वैल्यू कितना होता है? डिफरेंस वेक्टर का मिनिमम वैल्यू is difference in magnitudes, है ना? So for instance, if I have two vectors, 2 and 1, the minimum difference I can get when I subtract them is 1. The minimum difference I can get when I subtract them is 1. See? So let me use 3 over here. The minimum difference I can get when I subtract them in this case is 2. The minimum difference, the minimum magnitude of the difference is the difference in magnitudes. Right? The minimum magnitude of the difference is the difference in magnitude. So delta A bar का सबसे छोटा value, the least possible value of delta A bar is the difference in इनके magnitudes. A side of a triangle can never, this comes from a very simple logic. The side of a triangle can never be lesser than the difference of those two. तुम सोचो ना, if I have a triangle जिसका एक side 3 है, दूसरा side 1 है, तो 3 minus 1 कितना हो गया? 2. Can this side be of length 1 in any scenario? No, right? Because minimum length I would need now to complete the triangle would have to be at least 2. 2 से कम length से मेरा triangle complete होगा ही नहीं. Right? So the minimum length for the third side is difference of the other two sides. So delta A bar का minimum value is A final का magnitude minus A initial का magnitude. तो डेल्टा ए बार का सबसे छोटा वैल्यू इज डेल्टा ए. डेल्टा ए बार का सबसे छोटा वैल्यू इज डेल्टा ए. So the increment in my vector, the magnitude of the increment in my vector is greater than the increment in my magnitude. Okay, did that make sense? That was one solution. Can I maybe explain it another way? I'll try to explain it one more way. Imagine this is my vector. Okay, इस वेक्टर को मैंने हल्का सा मैग्नीट्यूड बढ़ाया. अगर इस वेक्टर का मैंने मैग्नीट्यूड हल्का से बढ़ाया, I'll try explaining one more way. See if you can understand this. Okay, so if I increase the magnitude of my vector slightly, my vector increased by how much? By this much. Okay, यहाँ पे मैंने क्या किया, मैंने सिर्फ वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड बढ़ाया, तो वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड जितने से बढ़ाया उतना ही वेक्टर बढ़ गया. But imagine if I do two things. Imagine if on top of that I now rotate my vector as well. Okay, on top of that I rotate my vector as well. So I increase the magnitude and now I'm rotating the vector as well. So as I rotate the vector, now my vector has effectively changed by how much? Is changed by this amount. Initial के सिर से final के सिर तक है ना, is changed by this amount. Is changed by this amount. So isn't, या if I were to refer to this diagram, ये diagram एक बार देख लो. ये diagram में A initial से है ना, A initial को ऐसा center मान के, and don't worry with the remaining questions we'll discuss in the next class. A initial को center मान के ऐसा घुमाओ, तो एक तो वेक्टर घुमाने के कारण A final ऐसा दिखेगा, उसके बाद A final का मैग्नीट्यूड बढ़ाने के कारण फाइनल वेक्टर ऐसा दिखेगा. ठीक है, तो अगर मैं A initial को घुमाऊंगा तो you can clearly see कि this length is same as this length. Therefore this is my extra length. This is delta A. Okay, A initial को जब घुमाया, come on यार, just give me a minute. ठीक है, let's just clarify this question अच्छे से. First and foremost, this is delta A bar. This is the change in the vector. This is the length of vector A bar initial. So this is AI. Do you see that if I were to draw a circular arc like this, do you see that this length is also AI? So the extra length that I have over here, that is actually the increase in the magnitude of vector A. Vector A का magnitude कितने से बढ़ा, इतने से बढ़ गया. ठीक है, AI के लेंथ से कितना बड़ा है, that is delta A. Delta A tells magnitude length कितने से बढ़ गया. This is telling पूरा वेक्टर कैसा चेंज हुआ. तो वेक्टर इतने वेक्टर से चेंज हुआ. A final is A initial plus this vector. So this is delta A bar. Whereas this is delta A. This is the change in the length of the vector. Okay, this is the change in the length of the vector. Now when you compare the two, you can clearly see that delta A bar is like the hypotenuse of this triangle. Delta A bar is definitely going to be greater than delta A. So delta A bar clearly looks like it's going to be greater than delta A. The only scenario in which it will be equal to delta A is if there is no rotation. Okay, so if I want to put this even more simply, what I'm trying to say is वेक्टर में चेंज एक तो घुमाने के कारण आ रहा है और मैग्नीट्यूड बढ़ाने के कारण आ रहा है. पूरा वेक्टर में चेंज, ये क्या है, ये पूरा वेक्टर में कितने से चेंज हो रहा है, तो वेक्टर कितने से चेंज हो रहा है, दैट इज व्हाट दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग. एंड दिस इज ओनली वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड कितने से चेंज हो रहा है ना. सो व्हाट इज मिसिंग इज द इफेक्ट ऑफ चेंजिंग द डायरेक्शन. Just by rotating this vector, I bring about this much change. वेक्टर को घुमाने के कारण कुछ चेंज आ रहा है और वेक्टर का साइज बढ़ाने के कारण एक और चेंज आ रहा है. Hence, total change in a vector is greater than सिर्फ साइज बढ़ाने के कारण जो मिलेगा. Make sense? This is the change in the vector because of rotation. Direction change हो रहा है A initial से A final. This is the change in the vector because of its size increasing. उनका resultant, उनका hypotenuse is the total change in the vector. So total change in the vector is greater than only change in magnitude, because vector is changing because of change in magnitude and change in direction. Okay? So all those we are ending it over here. I'll of course continue explaining the remaining in the next class. This was a very tricky question, so I'm going to explain this again. Those who are done, those who have understood, you can feel free to leave. Okay, I'll take up the remaining questions in the next class and other doubts as well. But those who have not understood, I'm just going to explain this again. थोड़ा मतलब कुछ लोग को दिख जाता है obviously, कुछ लोग को नहीं दिखता है, तो I'll just maybe I'll try explaining this again. वापस एक बार देख लो, है ना? You have to be very clear with understanding what these terms are. So let me see what it is that we are failing to understand. Rajasi, yes, greater than equal to is correct. Always greater नहीं, greater than equal to कब होगा? जब तुम इसको, हाँ, let's start with an equal to case. देखो, ये मान लो ये मेरा वेक्टर है, ठीक है? मान लो मेरा वेक्टर 5 न्यूटन का है. मैंने वेक्टर को, है ना, थोड़ा अब उसका साइज मैंने बढ़ा दिया, तो वेक्टर का साइज मैंने मान लो 6 न्यूटन कर दिया. तो एक तो वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड कितने से चेंज हुआ? 1 न्यूटन से चेंज हुआ, और साथ साथ वेक्टर कितने से चेंज हुआ? तो वेक्टर चेंज हुआ 1 न्यूटन टुवर्ड्स द राइट की तरफ. उसका मैग्नीट्यूड, चेंज इन द वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड इज still 1 Newton. So in this scenario, when there is no rotation, you can see how delta A bar ka magnitude Giri, just hold on to that. Okay. You can see how delta A bar ka magnitude is equal to delta A. तो यहाँ पे actually if you're talking about logically, यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? वेक्टर तो सिर्फ मैग्नीट्यूड चेंज के कारण चेंज हो रहा है. There is no change in direction. So logically जितने से मैग्नीट्यूड चेंज हुआ उतने से वेक्टर चेंज होगा. बट वेक्टर में चेंज दो कारण के हो सकता है, कभी चेंज इन डायरेक्शन के कारण भी हो सकता है. सो इफ यू लुक एट दिस सिनारियो, आई थिंक दिस शुड बी सफिशिएंट टू एक्सप्लेन द आइडिया. यहाँ पे मैंने क्या किया है? यहाँ पे मैंने बस वेक्टर को घुमा दिया, बस रोटेट किया, 5 न्यूटन को घुमाया. तो कैन यू सी दैट दिस इज डेल्टा ए बार? बिकॉज डेल्टा ए बार इज basically the change in my vector. Initial plus change gives me final. So therefore this is my change in the vector. It goes from initial vector ka sir to final vector ka sir, just like displacement. Displacement is change in position, goes from initial position to final position. वैसे ही change in any vector goes from uska initial head to the final head. ठीक है? It goes like that. So ये मेरा delta A bar है. Okay. Up in this scenario, you can see that delta A bar is something. Let's say we'll call this X. Okay. So I am rotating the vector. I can do any. So the scenario is I can do anything to my vector. I'm trying to see a general rule. Vector को कुछ amount से change किया है. हमने vector को change किया है. पता नहीं कितने amount से. But we are comparing कि एक बार उसको change करोगे तो, है ना? How much would be the change in magnitude? How much would be a change in vector? So just deal with this scenario once. And can you see key in this situation, while delta A bar is X, while the change in the vector is, I'll write it with the direction, is this much. And therefore magnitude of my change in vector is whatever X ka value is. Okay. While this is like this, do you agree that, or what do you think delta A is in this situation? Mod delta A bar is X. What is delta A? What is the change in the magnitude? पहले 5 है, बाद में भी 5 है. This is actually 0. So can you see, I've given you one example. When I change the direction, magnitude is not changing, but the vector is changing. On top of that, when I change the magnitude, magnitude is changing and my vector is changing by the same amount. When I put the two together, when I'm going to both rotate the vector as well as increase its magnitude, the vector is going to change by, if you imagine me putting both these things together, एक rotate भी कर रहा हूँ और magnitude भी बढ़ा रहा हूँ, तो एक तो vector का इसके साथ साथ magnitude बढ़ेगा 1 Newton से, because I'm actually increasing the magnitude of the vector, so the change in the vector will be change in magnitude 1 Newton. On top of that, there will also be some change due to the change in direction. When you put the two together, the change in the vector is greater. Okay, so final drawing, thanks for being patient. Final drawing would look like this. अगर मैं इसको घुमा रहा हूँ, ये 5 न्यूटन को घुमा के मैंने ऐसा 6 न्यूटन कर दिया. Okay, so two things are happening. One is I can say कि मैंने पहले उसका साइज बढ़ाया 1 न्यूटन से, फिर मैंने उसको घुमाया मान लो x से, साइज बढ़ाया 1 न्यूटन से, फिर घुमाया x से. So what is my change in the vector? It's this amount. This is my change in the vector. This is delta a bar. This is my change in the entire vector. Can you see how delta a bar का एक component है magnitude change 1 Newton, and एक दूसरा component है due to direction change. Okay, and this is the reason why delta a bar is greater than just delta a. So it's delta a plus something. Delta a bar is delta a के कारण change plus rotation के कारण change. Therefore, change in the vector will always be greater than equal to change in magnitude, because there could be some extra change coming in due to a change in direction. Yeah, Girish. Okay, if you are rotating it, if you're rotating it, delta a doesn't change, but delta a bar changes. Okay? This maybe is one of the most trickiest questions in the module. I think just spend some more time thinking about this. Probably you will get it. Okay. Cool. See you. Thank you. Bye. In the question is given change in magnitude. So why do we? नहीं. Let's read the question एक बार. ठीक है? Question तुम एक थोड़ा ध्यान से देखो. If delta A be the increment in the magnitude, they have only told you magnitude is changing. They're not telling you what is happening to the direction. The direction may or may not change. They're asking you which of the statements is always true. So you need to pick a statement which will be true even if the direction changes. If direction does not change, delta A is more delta A bar. Fair enough. But if the direction changes, then delta A is lesser than more delta A bar. Okay? So then what is always true? Delta A is less than equal to more delta A bar. Cool, good. Yeah, sure. Smriti Rupa, just remind me again in the next class. I'll do that. Okay. Yeah. Bye. Bye. Take care. Bye.